Hello and good afternoon. Sorry I sound so nasally today. We have a bit of a cold virus going through our home and it has hit me, so I got a little bit of the nasally sound going on. Also, sorry about the lighting. My boys are both napping and I tried doing this in the living room and it kept waking my son up. He's got a sound maker on and everything, so I'm not sure what the issue is. It has been a crazy week and I really need the little break of his nap. So we're doing the video in my bedroom today and the lighting is not that great, so bear with me. We are currently in this little month span where my boys are both the same age, and it's a very nostalgic time for me. It really reminds me a lot of when they were born. So in honor of their birthdays, I've decided to do a couple story times in this month span and tell their birth stories. If this is your first time hanging out with me, I am a stay-at-home mom of Irish twin boys. They are currently both 1. My firstborn will be 2 next month. So I am really enjoying this sweet time of them being so little and so close together. I do a lot of vlogging, but I also enjoy doing some random story times and things like that. So if that kind of thing interests you, don't forget to subscribe before you leave and connect with me over on my Instagram. I will have my Instagram handle linked below. So without further ado, let's get into the story. My husband and I got married in the spring of 2019 and we decided not to have children for a little while. That fall, we decided to go ahead and try. It took us a little while to get pregnant with him, so my husband was actually really surprised when I did tell him that I was pregnant. I had what is called hyperemesis gravidarum, or HG. It is basically the worst kind of morning sickness that you can have. It's not morning sickness, it's all day sickness, all week sickness, all month sickness. It doesn't just stop when your first trimester stops. I was horribly sick for the whole 9 months. I think I was like 6-ish weeks when it first hit me, and I had never been pregnant before, so I didn't know anything else. So I just figured that it was completely normal to be that sick, and it was not. I would be throwing up around 20-ish times a day. The only time I wasn't puking is if I was asleep, and when I was asleep, I was dreaming about puking. I did end up in the ER at one point, and they said that it was a good thing I went in because I was very close to some of my vital organs starting to shut down because I was not getting the nutrients I needed, and everything that I was taking in, I was immediately purging. And your body automatically takes what you have stored already and gives it to your baby to sustain that little life, which is really pretty cool if you think about it. But in the meantime, I was not doing very well. Around week 16, I was able to get my medication adjusted to where I wasn't puking every 5 seconds anymore, and that was very nice. But I was still very sick until the end. I ended up having several issues with my kidneys, and thanks to the HG in the beginning, my organs really struggled throughout the whole pregnancy, and I really mentally struggled as well. I didn't know that depression in pregnancy was a thing. No one had ever told me about that before, so I thought it was just me being upset because I was so sick, but it turns out I was actually clinically depressed because of the hormones and everything. So that was a little bit difficult to work through. Anyway, this is not a pregnancy talk. This is his birth story. So let's launch into that. He was 38 weeks and something. My blood pressure was like going super high, and then it would even out, and then it'd go super high, and then it would even out, and I was getting really swollen and stuff, and I was really concerned about preeclampsia. We were going to have him at a birthing center, and if I got preeclampsia, I was not able to have him at a birthing center because they only take low-risk pregnancies. And I'm like not terrified of the hospital, but it's not my preference to be in the hospital. So I was really wanting that birth center birth. I was kind of in the mindset of nothing is going to stand in my way of having him in this birthing center. So I was going to take matters into my own hands. I did a lot of walking, I did a lot of curb walking, and like I had what is called an irritable uterus. So any kind of like strenuous activity, and I was immediately having like a lot of Braxton Hicks contractions. So I was really like taking on the pineapple and all this different stuff, like all those old wives' tales, like really trying to get him to come out. Nothing was working. I first tried pumping because that can release the oxytocin hormone on Friday, and That started some contractions. Within a couple hours, actually, things like really picked up. I was starting to like time them and everything, and they were between like, I believe like 7 and 10 minutes apart. So, you know, typical early labor, but they were like a minute long, 30 seconds long, a minute and a half long. They were very, very inconsistent. And what I did not know then was I was actually having prodromal labor. And if you don't know what that is, you can look that up, but it's a very unfun situation to be in. I did not know that that is what I was experiencing, and I did not know he was in the wrong position. When you have a baby, your spine is like this, and their little head is right here, and the front of their head is supposed to be against your spine. Malakai was turned all the way around, so he wasn't flipped like breech. He was just turned the wrong way. So it was making it much harder for him to come down. So my body was trying to push him down and it just wasn't happening. And I was having like a lot of back labor. My husband was doing a concrete project. So I called him to let him know what was going on. And he was like, okay, you know, let me know if you need me to come home. And I was like, okay. And I also let my mother-in-law know because she was supposed to be part of my birth team. I also called our photographer and basically just set everything up just in case he came that weekend. I was very much intending on him coming that weekend because I was like, I cannot be pregnant anymore. My blood pressure is really freaking me out. And I'm basically going to just try everything in my power to get him to come out. So pretty much all day Saturday, I labored like that. On and off, on and off, on and off. It would come hard and then it would go away and then it would come back really hard and then it would go away again. And then I basically try something to get things started and then it would all fizzle out, you know, back and forth and back and forth. And then Sunday, my mother-in-law took me to the store. We got a bunch of groceries for just in case he did come that weekend. That also gave me an opportunity to walk around in the air conditioning for a while because oh my goodness, these boys decided to come in the dead of summer. And I was like a beached whale at that point. Like so hot, so sweaty, so swollen, and just miserable. And oh my goodness. I do not recommend having a summer baby. I cannot speak to winter babies because I've never had one, but oh my goodness, if we ever have another kid, we are planning it for the winter because it is miserable to be so hot and swollen in the middle of summer. Oh my word. So that gave me a good opportunity to get to walk around and stuff in the cooler environment and not be so miserable. So that Sunday afternoon, we tried the TENS unit and all of this just kept dragging on and dragging on and dragging on. It was absolutely exhausting. When I did lay down, I was barely getting any sleep. I was very uncomfortable walking around and very uncomfortable sitting, very uncomfortable lying down. My body was getting really fatigued at this point. I was doing warm baths to try and help my body to relax and help things to move along. Nothing was really working. This child was stuck and he was not coming out and I was getting a little bit desperate. At one point on Sunday, my contractions didn't stop, but they went from every 3 to 5 minutes to every like 14 to 17 minutes. And that really freaked me out because I was like, I am not doing all this work and being so exhausted and everything for everything to just like stop. Absolutely not. It's not happening. So I did the midwives brew. If you don't know what the midwives brew is, you can look it up. And can I just say, like, please speak with your doctor if you're going to do something like the midwives brew because everyone's body and everyone's baby reacts differently to things. And I am not in any way endorsing doing something that is going to affect your body in the way that the midwives brew affected me. Because wow, it really helped things to get going. Our church balcony has a platform and then stairs and then a platform and then stairs and then a platform. And I did that back and forth, I would say a couple hundred times, and that really helped to get things moving. And then during that whole walk thing, I decided to drink one more round of the midwives brew. So at that point I had done it twice and I had done a lot of research on it and everything. And I was like, I know this works for some people. I know it doesn't work for others. I was just like praying that it would work for me. My sister-in-law's had a birthday party. So my husband was playing volleyball and stuff. And I was like sitting there fat and miserable, having contractions. I was timing them and they were coming much stronger and much closer together. And at some point I was like, look, honey, we've got to go. I cannot sit here anymore. I need to go home and lie in my own bed. So that's what we did. And I had contractions on and off until bedtime, and they were coming very hard and very strong at this point. But again, they were not consistent. I know there's like some rule that you're supposed to have like a certain amount of contractions that last a certain amount of time for a certain amount of time. May I just say, everyone's body is different. I was in full-fledged labor and I thought I was not at all because my contractions were spaced apart and they were coming hard, but they were still like 30 seconds long and a minute long and a minute and a half long. They weren't consistent in any way. It really confused me, and I was like, I'm doing all this work and I'm not even in labor. I was really getting discouraged. So that night I spoke with my midwife. She had me take some stuff to help me sleep, and we went to bed. The stuff to help me sleep really did not last very long. It lasted like maybe an hour, and then my contractions were so bad that I could not hardly function anymore. I was literally like in absolute agony all by myself because I didn't know I was in labor, so I wanted my husband to sleep because he had to work the next day. I know. I was gonna let him go to work while I was in this state, but I was like, you know what? It's whatever. I can have someone come to the house and sit with me. I'll be fine. I did not think I was actually going to be pushing the baby out anytime soon, so I was like, I'll just let him sleep. So I was in absolute agony all by myself. It was really, really, really miserable. I remember around like 3, I went and laid in bed and I was like, this is ridiculous. What in the world is wrong with my body? Around 4 something, I was laying in bed through these awful contractions, and I remember I felt a gush of something came out of me, and I was like, yes, this is it. My water just broke. And I was literally like ready to do a happy dance. I was so excited. So I remember I stood up and, you know, everything comes gushing out, and I was like, I gotta make it to the bathroom because, you know, I'm gonna have stuff all over the floor. So I'm like quickly tiptoeing to the bathroom, and I get to the bathroom and I sit on the toilet and flip the light on, and there was blood everywhere. And I was like, oh, that's not my water. So I called for my husband. Our bedroom is here and our bathroom is on the other side of the wall. So I was hoping he would hear me, but he did not. So thankfully I had thought to take my phone with me. So I called him and he just came straight into the bathroom. And I remember this dazed, crazy look on his face where he was just like staring at my legs and all this blood. And he was like, are you okay? And I said, I don't know. I need you to call the midwife. He called her and he was like, I don't know what to say. Poor guy. I was so like flustered. So between contractions, I was able to work it out with her. She wanted me to go to the ER if I was bleeding like that and get checked out. We were gonna end up going to the ER that was a couple minutes from her anyway. So she was like, you know what? If you can find the baby's heartbeat with your Doppler, then go ahead and just come to the birthing center and I'll check you out and we can transfer you by ambulance if you need to be. But if everything's fine, then you'll just stay here and we'll just proceed with the labor. And I was like, I can do that. So my husband found it and everything was fine. So we called my mother-in-law and she came over and my husband was throwing everything in the bag, you know. As soon as my mother-in-law arrived, we headed out to the birthing center. And may I just say, these women who do not have any kind of pain medication and give birth in a bed lying down, I do not know how people physically do that. The pain of sitting in the car through contractions was literal agony. I cannot even describe to you. I thought I was going to die. I was like, if this is not labor, and at this point my contractions were still not like consistent or anything, and I was like, you know what? If this is not labor, I cannot do this because this is the most pain I've ever been in, and I have a very high pain tolerance, and I could have sworn I could have done this by myself, and there's no possible way I can. So I was on the verge of giving up at that point. It had already been like 3 days of this, and I was so tired and so like done and ready for him to come. Anyway, we finally made it to the birthing center, and I was getting super nauseous in the car and thought I was gonna throw up a couple times. So my mother-in-law found a Walmart bag and was holding it near me just in case. And I remember we stopped and I was gonna have a contraction. I was like, oh good, I can have this one outside the car. So I turned, like to position myself to get out of the car. And I remember when I turned, the baby, his whole, I'm assuming it was his back and butt, like rolled like across my stomach, and I could see it was so like well defined. He was pushing that hard against me, and I just, thank God she had that bag there, because I barfed. Like, oh my word, it hurt so bad for him to move like that. So the midwife was there. We got inside and she went to check me and she could not find my cervix, and I was like, look, I know I have one. And she was like, well, I'm just gonna have to check you during a contraction. And oh my, laying down is already painful, but laying down, being checked during a contraction, I cannot describe to you how painful that was. Oh my word, it hurt so bad. But anyway, she said I was at a 6, and I was like, yes, I am in labor, I knew it. She filled the pool for me, and while she was filling the pool, she had me lie on this table to help move the baby because he still wasn't positioned properly, and I was having horrible back labor. It was all in my back. Oh my word, I can't even, okay. I have had regular labor, and I have had prodromal labor, and I have had prodromal labor with the back labor. And can I just say, all you women out there who have had strictly back labor, I am so sorry. And I know exactly what you went through, and I sympathize with you so deeply and so strongly, and you are absolute champions. Like, every woman who gives birth is an absolute warrior, but oh ye who have unmedicated back labor, absolute champions, because that is the worst pain I have ever been through in my entire life. Oh my, the back labor, and I mean, like, I've never had like a C-section, which I've heard is absolutely insanely painful, but oh my goodness, that back labor, I would not wish that on my very worst enemy. So painful. Anyway, I was able to get in the pool and labor in there for a while. My photographer showed up at some point. I don't even remember that. I just remember looking up and being like, oh, hi. But I was like so out of it. At some point, my midwife came in and I was like, excuse me, my water still has not broken. If you break my water for me, will that help things speed along a little bit? And she was like, maybe? And it was like, okay, do it. And she was like, okay. So she was gonna check me when she popped my water. She again had to do it during a contraction because my body. So she did the whole thing and she was like, oh, you're at an 8. And I was like, all right, just forget about like popping my water. That hurt so bad. And she was like, oh no, I already did it. And I was like, you are amazing. I didn't even feel it. My husband was there the whole time, like holding my hands and kissing me. And oh my goodness, I could not have done that without him. That was literally the most like difficult thing I have ever done. And he was right there for me. And I really appreciate that. If you are thinking about having a baby and you don't have a support person yet, definitely think about who you could have do that for you, because oh my goodness, that made all the difference in the world having him there. It was about 2 more hours before my body finally was like, let's get this baby out. And I did not really ever push at all. I kind of just let my body do its thing. And it's the weirdest thing ever. Your body like pushes for you. And I pushed for about an hour, and it was the most odd feeling ever because I was so exhausted. And in between each push, I was falling asleep. I could still like hear everybody around me, but my mind and my body was literally resting in between each push, and it was the most odd feeling, but it was so nice. And my midwife was very good at walking me through the whole thing and talking me through it. At some point she was like, I can feel his head, and I was like, really? Like, that's all that's come out yet is just the very top of his head? She had me reach down and feel it, and I wish I could be like, it was the most magical feeling, but it was not. He just felt like a little sponge, and I was like, that is really bizarre. This is actually a person coming out of me right now. A couple pushes later, and she was like, you're almost to his ears, and I was like, his ears? How much of this kid is just his head? But eventually, at some point, I pushed one more time, and his head was like, and then all of him just slid out, and it was just like a mess of her trying to lift him up to me and me being like, what just happened? And it was like super sweet, and it was the weirdest thing ever. Like I said, I was horribly sick this entire 9 months, Literally, as soon as he came out of my body, the nausea went away. And when I tell you that is the strangest feeling, I cannot even describe it to you. Just living in this state of sickness for that long, and then all of a sudden, it's gone. As soon as he came out, I did not even see it happening, but apparently I started like hemorrhaging, and I was in the water at that point. My midwife was very calm, and she was just like, you're bleeding a lot. We're gonna give you a shot and something in your mouth to help stop that. So they gave me the shot in my leg, they gave me the vitamin in my mouth, and they were like, you need to get out of the water so we can actually see what's happening, you know? I had wanted delayed cord clamping. That was as delayed as it was gonna get, because at that point they weren't sure what exactly was happening with me. So they clamped the cord, cut it, you know. My husband took the baby for skin to skin, and then they helped me get out of the tub and moved me over to the bed and did all of the placenta and everything over there. She stitched me up. They were able to get the bleeding to stop. They had to give me another shot and another shot for my nausea, because after the placenta came out, I was like sick all over again because of everything going on with my body and everything. It was not enjoyable. We were able to try nursing, and that did not work out, which I will tell you about that in a whole other video. But we were able to do skin to skin, and we were able to lie there and just relax. And when I give birth, I have like this horrible rush of adrenaline like an hour after the baby is born, which is weird because you'd think the adrenaline would come like during the birth and stuff. No. It waits a little bit and then it hits me. I had been awake for like 2 whole nights at that point. I still couldn't sleep because the adrenaline was like, bam, sister. So I got to lay there and just like bask in my baby being born. He was born at 10:12 in the morning. My mother-in-law was able to be there, and she helped us get loaded into the car, and by that afternoon we were home. Overall, that whole day was just kind of lying at home in our own bed, snuggling the baby and just enjoying being parents for that first day. So yeah, that is the story of my firstborn. I really enjoyed the whole birthing experience, even though the things that happened in my labor and the labor itself and the nausea and everything was really traumatizing. Overall, it was really empowering knowing that I could go through that much pain and be in labor for that long and go through each difficult situation and my body still show up for me. And I have such a new appreciation for my body and all that it can do, and myself as a person, for being able to push through that 68 long hours and all that pain and all those random difficult circumstances to be able to give birth naturally. So yeah, my second-born's story is so different. I will tell that story in a couple of weeks, but that's all I have for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to connect with me over on my Instagram, and I will see you all next week. Bye.